criticizing this transaction and going further to indicate that anybody who supports the transaction must be unduly benefiting from the transaction. First of all, I am very happy, and I want to say government is very happy to listen to superior argument or superior alternative or superior propositions from Ghanaians and from Ghanaian institutions, civil society, academia, and the rest. I mean, much more a personality who is occupied a very high office of Chief Justice. So if the Chief Justice puts forward an alternative, a critique, suggestions, proposals, which are superior to what we are doing, I mean, the most important thing is that we structure an arrangement and we construct a deal which is in the interest of Ghana, all of us. I mean, so we all will have the benefit of it. But so far, unfortunately, I have not heard anything in particular that the former Chief Justice is put on the table. I mean, to say, for example, that 10% royalty is not good. You should have gotten 15%. Or that you negotiated for a community development fund. You should have done something else. Or that this particular jurisdiction did it that way. So you should go on that route. We've not gotten that. I mean, you heard from the presentation, for example, that when it comes to royalties, when you go to clause 20A of the agreement of the lease, the royalty rate which we've negotiated for is 10%. 10% royalty rate. All mining companies in Ghana from 1957, since we gained independence, pay royalty rate of 5%. Newmont pays 5%. Goldfields pay 5%. Anglo Gold pays the same. You name it. Cardinal, all of them. The negotiated royalties 5%. We successfully negotiated 10%. When you go to Australia, which controls some of the biggest deposits of lithium, their royalty rate is 5%. When you go to Mali, that has a bigger deposit of lithium, almost 3-4 times bigger than ours, they charge 6%. When you go to Zimbabwe, they have a bigger deposit of lithium than we do, they charge 5%. Your government, the Ghanaian government, is negotiated for 10%. So if the former Chief Justice says that is wrong, you should have done 20% because of this and that reason. The lady from Bloomberg, and Bloomberg is one of the leading authorities when it comes to metals, when it comes to minerals. Everybody knows that. I've been to Bloomberg. I've had multiple interviews with them. She asked the question that this 10%, is it not going to make your industry uncompetitive? Atlantic Lithium is swallowed it. Is it going to be the case that a lot more companies will refrain from coming to Ghana because you are charging a high royalty rate? So this is the point. I mean, the discussion gets a lot more productive if we have alternatives. She's not giving any alternative. For example, you go and look at corporate income tax rate. The corporate income tax rate we are charging here in Ghana in this transaction is 35%. Australia is charging 30%. Mali is charging 30%. Zimbabwe, our counterpart sister African country, more deposits than Ghana, they are charging 25%. And Ghana, we've negotiated for 35% of corporate income tax rate. Then somebody says, it's a bad deal, throw it away, and he doesn't or she doesn't give you an alternative that you should have done it this or that way. Lastly, you go to free carried interest. We've negotiated for 13%, and across the sector, free carried interest is 10%. Goldfields is 10%. Anglo Gold is 10%. Newmont is 10%. Cardinal is 10%. Golden Star is 10%. Ghana Bauxite Company is 10%. In this particular transaction, we have negotiated for 13%. And it was hard negotiations. As I said, in some cases, the president himself was involved in the negotiations. And he insisted. When we went back to him and said 8%, 7%, whatever, he said, no, this is a special mineral. Go back, negotiate upwards. We negotiate for 13%. So what is the point I make? And, as you can imagine, I mean, she's a former Chief Justice, occupied the high office in our country, number 4 in the country. So it's a bit difficult to, engage when it comes to a personality like that. But to say the least, I mean, one other point she makes, for that anybody who supports this transaction must have benefited from the transaction unduly. So here I am. I support the transaction. I must have benefited from it unduly. No evidence, no basis for that. No evidence, no basis for that. And when I went to law school first year, the good old law lady, her lordship, her ladyship, Chief Justice Sophia Akufo, taught me that the cardinal rule of the game is evidence. Every lawyer, when you make a claim, evidence. Because this is just a brush that is used to brush everybody who supports this transaction. And more or less cast insinuation and compromise all of us, our integrity. When we all know that the rule of the game is evidence. And then she put something on the table. That Minister Jinapor has some hidden company in offshore where he holds some secret 5% in this company, and that is why he's supporting the deal. Then we are having a proper conversation. But you make this statement that anybody who supports this transaction must be benefiting from the transaction unduly. Sam Jonah, one of the foremost leading mining administrators in our country. If I'm not exaggerating, I'm not too sure that there is anybody, inclusive, who can match up to Sam Jonah's pedigree, at least when it comes to the mining sector of our country. When he was running the first biggest mine in our country, in Obuasi, and you see Nko were still, first year students at the minerals. Sam Jonah has come out publicly to say this is one of the best transactions Ghana has ever negotiated for in the mining industry. It's on record. It was published on the Daily Graphic. I read it. Per the logic, respectfully, very respectfully, per the logic of our senior stateswoman, former Chief Justice, Sam Jonah is supposed to be benefiting and dealing from this transaction. Bloomberg, and I heard them myself, Bloomberg did a thorough analysis of this particular transaction and came to the conclusion that it's one of the best an African country is structured. Bloomberg must be benefiting from this transaction. Professor Richard Amankwa, Vice Chancellor of the University of Mines and Technology, a foremost, well-respected, world-renowned methodologist, very well-respected in the mining industry. Nobody can dispute that. He's on record to have said that this is one of the best transactions we structured. He must be benefiting and dealing from it. Dr. Komna Donko, formerly Minister for Energy, former ranking member for Mines and Energy, former chair, and I mean, he's a leading member of the National Democratic Congress. But you have to give it to him when it comes to matters of energy, power, and mining. He's an expert and he's well respected across board. His views are well respected. He's done a critique of this transaction. He's raised issues with one or two areas he believes we could have done better. But by and large, in the whole, he thinks that is a good transaction. Dr. Komna Donko must be benefiting unduly. So, I mean, it gets a little difficult to confront some of these things, but it's what it is. I mean, what I can say about and to our madam is just to say that, look, I am reluctant to get into a bantam with her or to make comments which can potentially sound disrespectful, but really, our doors are open. If there's anything she has which is superior to what we have done, we are very happy to listen to her. But her comments are, to say the least, most unfortunate, and we'll move forward from there.
Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and click on the bell for more updates.